Hello, I'm Bella, 31 years old. I stay at home to manage our household. My husband, Jerry, who is 4 years older, and I have been living with his parents, Henry and Marilyn, for the past 3 years. Both Henry and Marilyn are in their 60s and in good health. Marilyn, Jerry's mother, is particularly sociable and has an active social life. Since moving in, I've noticed that Marilyn rarely helps with household chores. Despite not working outside the home, she was previously a stay-at-home mom, but now she leaves most of the housework to me. Occasionally, Marilyn encourages me to take some time for myself, but if everything isn't spotless when she returns, she's quick to criticize. I've tried talking to her about it, explaining that I might not finish all the chores before she heads out, but she dismisses my concerns. She often tells me that managing a busy home is normal, claiming my generation just doesn't handle it as well as hers did. Marilyn frequently praises Jerry, who has a prominent job, and often compares us, pointing out that he works hard while I, in her view, don't measure up. Jerry's reaction doesn't help. During meals, when Marilyn complains about my efforts, he simply says, "Oh, really?" without offering any support. Initially, I admired Jerry's maturity, but now I feel like I've become little more than the household manager, even when I'm working late into the night. The situation has become more challenging, and I wish Jerry would see my efforts. Instead, he doesn't directly confront me but tosses laundry in my direction and curtly says, "Handle that too." I sometimes regret marrying him because he's changed so much since our wedding. On our first anniversary, he brought home a cake but also playfully smashed a pie in my face, laughing it off. It's hard to believe he's an adult. One positive presence is my father-in-law, Henry. He's calm and checks if I need help with anything, providing the only kindness I experience in this household. Since leaving my job to marry Jerry, Henry has been someone I confide in, and I see him almost like a father. But with Henry working during the day, I often find myself alone with Marilyn. She sometimes accuses me of flirting with Henry, citing Jerry's neglect as the reason. These accusations come when Henry isn't around, and when I try to defend myself, she mocks me, making hurtful comments. When I tried to talk to Jerry about this, hoping he'd understand it was just Marilyn's unfounded suspicions, he laughed, saying I was into older men now. I was shocked, realizing nothing would change. I hadn't expected Jerry to suddenly start helping with chores or to stand up to Marilyn's criticism, but his response was a painful disappointment. I felt increasingly out of place. One summer day, Marilyn mentioned a family trip during Jerry's break. Initially, I thought she was just excited about a family outing, but then she unexpectedly asked if I wanted to join. Her invitation surprised me. I assumed they might go without me. When I hesitated, Marilyn looked suspicious, questioning if I wanted to come or not. Her invitation made me uneasy, and I was uncertain of her intentions, especially if I chose not to go. That evening, Jerry brought up the trip again, curious if I'd join. I told him about the invitation, and to my surprise, he burst out laughing, feeling confused. I asked why he found it funny, but he brushed it off. On the day of the trip, it was just Jerry, Marilyn, and me in the car, with Jerry driving, Marilyn in the front seat, and me in the back. Henry couldn't join us initially due to work. As we drove, I felt increasingly anxious, unable to see their faces from the back seat. Midway through the drive, Marilyn turned to me and asked, "Did you withdraw money for the trip?" I nodded, mentioning I had taken out a few hundred. Her pleased reaction struck me as a bit odd, but I brushed it off. Soon, I noticed we'd driven past the inn where we were supposed to stay. "Didn't we just pass the inn?" I asked. Jerry answered with a vague smile, mentioning that a tourist spot lay just ahead, and that we'd check in afterward, but his smile felt forced, and an uneasy feeling began to creep over me. The farther we drove, the more remote the surroundings became. Lush greenery replaced any sign of buildings, and soon we arrived at a small, secluded dam with no one else around. "Let's get out and stretch our legs," Marilyn suggested, and Jerry added, "Just don't leave anything valuable in the car." Obeying their instructions, I stepped out, feeling wary of the unexpected detour. As I shut the car door, I noticed Marilyn and Jerry lingering, pretending to adjust something inside the car. Suddenly, I heard the click of the locks. Jerry's laughter rang out as he looked at me through the partially rolled-down window. "What's going on?" I asked, confused and starting to feel a rush of anger. "Are we staying here for the night?" "Oh, Bella," Marilyn sneered, smirking, "you really walked right into this, didn't you?" Jerry clutched his stomach, laughing. "Have fun out here, Bella. Maybe you can eat some grass and sleep under the stars," he jeered, holding up my wallet. Then, he rolled up the window completely, and they drove off, their laughter echoing behind them. I stood in shock, watching them disappear down the road, realizing they'd left me without my wallet or phone. But instead of panicking, I focused on finding my way back. After what felt like hours, I managed to find my way to the inn we'd initially planned to stay at. When I entered the lobby, Jerry and Marilyn were already there, looking relaxed, until they spotted me. "What?" Jerry exclaimed, his face paling. "How are you here? Are you a ghost? Did something happen at the dam?" He looked at me as if I'd risen from the dead, while Marilyn stood beside him, her face drained of color. I thought briefly about playing along with his ghost theory, but I simply smiled. I'm no ghost, Jerry, and yes, I'll be staying here tonight. I held up the key to my room, where I had already placed my things. His expression shifted to confusion, and then annoyance. What are you doing with a key? Did you take it from our room? He demanded, reaching for it. But this time, I was prepared. I firmly held my ground, refusing to let him intimidate me. Suddenly, a man stepped forward, gripping Jerry's arm with authority. Sir, please refrain from causing a disturbance, he said firmly. He was about the same age as Henry but taller and more commanding. Jerry looked stunned, and Marilyn immediately began to protest. Who are you? Are you staff? You can't interfere like this, I'll have you reported, she snapped. The man, unbothered, introduced himself calmly. I apologize for not introducing myself sooner. I am the owner of this inn. Jerry instantly backed off, releasing his hold. I recognized the owner from my college days and felt a wave of relief wash over me, knowing I had an unexpected ally. I remembered visiting this area with friends one summer. It had been a sweltering day, and we'd gotten lost trying to find our accommodation. During our detour, we came across a young girl collapsed by the roadside. She turned out to be Kelly, the inn owner's daughter. We called an ambulance and stayed with her until help arrived. The next day, her father, the inn owner, visited us to thank us personally. You saved my daughter's life. I can't thank you enough, he'd said gratefully, then extended an invitation. Next time you're in town, please stay with us, no charge. Since then, my family and I had visited the inn a few times, and I'd come to know the owner well. Now, as he confronted my husband and Marilyn, he maintained a polite tone, but I could sense his simmering anger. In fact, both he and I were aware of their scheme all along. 3 weeks prior, I'd grown suspicious of the sudden trip invitation. To confirm my instincts, I discreetly placed a voice recorder in the living room, capturing conversations when they thought I was out of earshot, like during my bath or while I was doing laundry. Listening to the recordings was shocking. My husband and Marilyn openly plotted. Let's ditch Bella somewhere, maybe near that dam an hour from the inn, Marilyn had suggested, laughing. It'll be hilarious. The chilling realization of their intentions drove me to contact the inn owner, who was appalled, having experienced his daughter's heatstroke firsthand. He felt personally invested in my safety and was outraged by their cruelty. Together, we coordinated a plan. Just after my husband and Marilyn abandoned me, the inn owner's driver would pick me up. As it turned out, the driver was none other than Kelly, the same girl I had helped years ago. I finally got my license. Let's go for a drive, she said with a bright smile. Though surprised, I felt reassured as we headed back to the inn, stopping for local ice cream and laughing together. Even though I knew I'd be rescued, the ordeal had left me anxious, but Kelly navigated confidently, and we arrived well before my husband and Marilyn. Back at the inn, the owner addressed Marilyn directly. You mentioned something about suing us, ma'am, he said with an icy edge. Yes, I did. How dare you accuse us? Marilyn snapped defiantly. The owner's voice hardened. I'm sorry, but you're not our guests, he said coolly. What? This is outrageous, Marilyn and my husband shouted, fuming. Your reservations have been cancelled, the owner replied firmly. My husband's face twisted in anger. Who do you think you are? He sneered, but the owner remained calm. Bella is our guest here. You two, however, left her stranded and stole her wallet. The owner replied calmly. Our inn doesn't tolerate criminal behavior. You can't be serious, my husband protested. I work for a respected company. At that moment, Henry walked in, immediately sensing the tension. What's going on here? He asked. My husband and Marilyn quickly tried to twist the story, complaining about the inn's unjust treatment. But as the inn owner and I recounted the true story, Henry's face flushed with anger, a side of him I'd never seen. You absolute fools, he yelled, his voice echoing through the lobby. I'm ashamed to share a last name with you two. You're disowned. Leave now. My husband and Marilyn stood there, dumbfounded. Where are we supposed to go? Another inn? They asked, bewildered. Henry was unwavering. You're disowned. Don't make me say it again. With that, he turned to them with disgust and pushed my husband away. Just then, the police arrived. As my husband and Marilyn's faces drained of color, I recounted the entire plot, playing the recorded conversation for the officers. My husband and Marilyn began to cry, but Henry silenced them with a sharp, cutting tone. Quiet down, you're disturbing the inn, Henry commanded. He turned to the officer. Please, take them away. It was just a prank, my husband stammered, trying to justify his actions, but the officer's expression hardened. A prank? Do you even realize how reckless that was? You put someone's life at risk, your own wife's. The officer admonished them, though they weren't taken into custody. Their faces were pale, shaken by the consequences. This isn't over, the officer warned. Bella's decision will influence your future, keep that in mind. With that, they were escorted out, clearly rattled by the experience. Henry lingered, his face showing deep remorse. "I'm so sorry, Bella. I should have noticed sooner. I had no idea about the burden you were carrying." He turned to the inn owner, extending his apologies for the trouble his family had caused. As it turned out, the inn owner was a client of Henry's company. Unaware of this connection, my husband had previously boasted about his job, only adding to his humiliation. Grateful I had foreseen their plan and acted accordingly, I realized that things could have been far worse had I not trusted my instincts. When we returned from the inn, I initiated a divorce and sought a settlement. I hoped this experience would teach my husband and Marilyn to consider the consequences of their actions. In a surprising turn, Henry also divorced Marilyn and severed ties with my husband, insisting he move out. At work, my husband's problematic behavior had been an issue for some time, and he was soon encouraged to resign. His harsh treatment of colleagues had not gone unnoticed, and his career was now a casualty of his own actions. Marilyn, now without a home, turned to her relatives for support, though there were concerns about her spending habits. As she was still in good health, her family suggested she find a part-time job to support herself, wary of her potential impact on their finances. I moved out and began living independently nearby. Henry and I stayed in touch, and he's become a trusted advisor as I navigate this new chapter. When a local business owner heard of my situation, he reached out with a job offer, expressing genuine concern and welcoming me to his team. It turned out to be a renowned company with a strong reputation for employee care, ironically in the same industry my ex-husband had always bragged about, yet significantly larger. I accepted, grateful for the kindness and support. This new workplace was a world apart from the turmoil I'd left behind, full of friendly colleagues and fulfilling work. It felt like a full-circle moment, a chance to rebuild with purpose and positivity. Starting anew has been empowering, and every day brings a fresh sense of possibility as I leave the past behind and embrace a brighter future.